Taneytown Planning Commission, please come to order. Would we stand for the pledge to the flag? George, would you lead us, please?
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start out by welcoming Mr. Wentz to the Commission.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Commission members should have received the draft minutes of April 27, 2015. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Ollie, Jim?
Good.
Motion approved.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes,
A
April
second.
27th, 2015.
I second it.
Any further discussion on it? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is recommendation for the mayor and council regarding the zoning change at 226 East Balmer Street, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the old sheets.
That's what it says here.
Yeah, that's right. So Jim, you want to lead off
Have a
on
little bit.
getting us started here?
Sure. Most of you will recall that several months ago, Ronnie Martin, the property owner of that Baltimore Street piece, came before the commission. He's been pursuing a number of different potential tenants or buyers for the property, and he has had a couple interested parties that would be more of a general business type use, something that would require either a drive-through or at one point an automotive type use, neither of which is really permitted in the downtown business district. At that point, I think the commission acknowledged that this property is somewhat unique for a downtown business district property. It's larger, it has frontage on 2 streets, and it's not your typical, small, really downtown type property. Let's see, at that point, the thought was to take it before council, see if they had any thoughts on looking at a different zoning designation or amending the code. And while I'm sure that Councilman Ebal did bring it up with council, I don't think there was really any subsequent discussion about the topic at the council level, at the mayor and council level. So the property owner has come back to the city with, again, with another use that doesn't really fit for the property or another potential use. And when he was told no, he, again, brought up the idea of rezoning the property. So before we take it back to the mayor and council, Henry suggested that we get some kind of formal recommendation and a motion and a vote if there is a recommendation to make some change to it.
That's what council basically requested, Unfortunately, I wasn't there at that meeting. And Jay, he said he doesn't recall this guy coming here at all, so.
He might have been absent at the time.
Yeah, but in any event, when we discussed it last, he was saying, what, he didn't think this would.
You really can't. I mean, it is spot zoning by definition by doing this. If he were adjacent to a general business, I'd understand, but the closest zoning to him is 7,500, which would be more restrictive than what he has now.
Well, the 2 options discussed would be either a text amendment to the downtown business district that would enable that sort of a thing, which even if you were to tailor it to a property very much like this one, there still is the chance that down the road some other property or those set of circumstances could exist at some other property, and that whatever use you might amend the code to allow could then be done throughout the district at any property that in the future met that criteria. So there's kind of a downside about amending the text, even trying to make it very specific. As to rezoning, there is general business north of Cortlandt Street, across the street from the property. So there's one parcel between the Sheets site, the former Sheets site, and general business district. So the house that faces Baltimore Street, or the couple houses there, are downtown, but the zoning changed to Cortlandt at the alley. So north of that, like up towards where the auto parts store, the senior center, the American Legion, that area is general business. So that could be extended down if the commission thinks that's the best use for that area.
We would have to cross 140 or East Balmer Street.
Right, so
And I think that's a good
So that would
dividing
be-
line as it
I
is.
agree.
that would be right. That would be a way that it could be done without it being spot zoning. Now, the other piece with rezoning to think about, though, is that it would be incumbent on him making the request to prove either a change of character in the area or a mistake was made, like a zoning map error was made. And, that property was intended to be downtown business with the last couple comprehensive plans, so I don't think you can really say that it was a mistake, and nobody has objected to it up until now that, he's looking for a new tenant. So it's been downtown business for, over a decade. And to prove a change of character of the area, I don't know that he could come up with anything to support that. So of the two choices, they both have a lot of drawbacks. But again, if the type of use he's talking about, like a fast food restaurant or something else general business oriented, is really desirable, those would be the options. So,
Well, and my issue here is that he's not coming to us saying, I have this person who wants to do this, can we make this happen? He's basically wanting us to help him make the property more marketable, is what he's looking for.
Right.
So it's serving his interest at this point, not,
and when
Not
he
a
came
business
before the commission, he did have a prospective tenant in mind, and it was a fast food business. They have, the numbers did not work for that particular venture to move ahead, but that when he approached the commission previously, he did have somebody kind of on the short list as a prospective tenant.
But all in all, I think the town ought to think a little bit about the people too. And try to help the people get some food places downtown or some a business down besides another auto parts store. That's what we're looking at. We really need 4 auto parts stores. And if we could help, it would, as far as I'm concerned, if we can help, would be very wise to the city of Taneytown to help, not just say, okay, we didn't do anything wrong, but, I
There's a
think
lot
we
of
need-
options. There's a lot of options as far as a little community store, a little,
Oh, yeah, we could put a doctor's office in there, or,
well, I'm not talking about, you're talking about for food. I mean, there's, according to
uses
our
that would
ordinance,
fit
there's
in
a lot of options that would fit in there besides a drive-through.
And you recall, well, maybe you don't, but I remember this debated a long time ago with the concern for allowing drive-throughs in the downtown area. That basically came to light when the Burger King came into the city. Because that was a residential right next to it, and just simply bought it up. And that, without that wording in there, or that restriction in there that's in there right now, same thing could happen here.
What's the zoning on the bank and the dentist office?
downtown, both.
The bank is downtown business,
Right.
and
Dentist is as
the
well.
dentist is R7500.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think it is R75.
Okay, because I thought that property was also downtown, it was next to that.
It looks like downtown.
It was never rezoned that property.
you're saying Taco Bell's not interested anymore.
We're right here.
Isn't this the next?
I thought that was,
Yeah, that's the dentist right there.
I thought.
Well, yeah, they're always
Here, it's
This
the
one,
weird
and that was
dog
the
leg.
bank.
Yeah.
you're right. So that is general,
No,
downtown business, that is
The
down.
dentist office is downtown, according to this.
But
It's
that's
the
where
next
it's at.
property over that starts 75.
Not exactly, well, I don't know if it is, because here's the street.
Is the bank on 2 plots?
Oh, that could be what it is then.
Well, because,
Well, who goes on,
but the problem is, this
That
property
throughway.
goes back to Trevanion. So somewhere, that's why I'm thinking it's this, because of the property.
am I not?
Murray Alley doesn't go all the way through, it stops behind the doctor's office.
Right, but the dog leg of the Sheets property comes all the way back to Trevanion Road. Because you have that rear entrance, and that's,
That looks
It's
like the
kind of
doctor.
tricky in there.
that has to be it.
It has, other than the street of
Franklin?
Franklin Street being directly across,
That's what's,
and it's not. Franklin Street is directly across from Sheets.
right. Right, so
So
that's,
something's not,
It's not quite lined up.
For that and Exxon.
Well, if you recall,
I still say if you don't consider it, you're wrong.
Well, no, I don't
Just
think it's a
wrong.
matter of not considering it.
it's part two.
It's a matter of not wanting to
Scott?
change the zoning.
I just want to throw this out there. This is not specific to the Sheets property in any way, but from my planning perspective, I have a lot less heartburn about spot zones in an urban area than I would, say, in a more rural, suburban, on the outskirts type area. I think as we look through the comprehensive plan and as we look at some properties that might be in question throughout the town, try not to let that handcuff you in your decision making that, oh, we shouldn't have spot zoning, because I think you actually do find that you have such a diverse number of zones sometimes in downtown areas, you will find that, and I don't think it's uncommon or something that should be out of bounds in our discourse as we move forward with the updated comp plan.
How did the bank get their drive-throughs?
The,
that was there before we changed downtown.
That was grandfathered in.
Grandfathered in, yeah.
pretty much, I guess, the bank and the 2 gas stations, the Sheets and the Exxon, were there prior to either the text of the code changing back when it was local business. And somewhere along the line, it was decided, and as Henry said, it may have been after the issue with properties being demolished or drive-through with fast food. That
And they had a
the
drive-through for that
use
bank?
was-
Well,
And the bank had a drive-through when it was Taneytown Bank, and they kept the drive-through window open and the ATM, the drive-up ATM open long after the bank actually closed. So they were not, so they kept the drive-through there so that their non-conforming use didn't expire before.
But they
the
added
ATM
another lane
began.
too, didn't they? Didn't they add another lane?
They did add another lane, yes. But the use was there already.
I just find it hard to deny one person one thing and give it to another.
And had somebody come back within a year of Sheets being opened, they could have done another gas station. But they didn't come back with a plan to, continue that use. They had a year that was actually just up at the end of May. So they've had, from the time Sheets closed, he had a year that he could have put another gas station in there if that was what he wanted to do, if he had a tenant. So that, when that didn't happen for a year, now it kind of, that non-conforming use expires, and
that property is still being leased by Sheets.
Yes. Sheets has about 3 years left on the lease, unless someone leases it before then.
Shame and stay down there.
Okay, so any more discussion, or what's the wishes of the commission?
And I will just throw out, as Scott mentioned, with us in the early stages of updating our comprehensive plan, this may be something that's better to look at as part of that process as well. That when we start talking about land use and the objectives of the plan.
And I'm sure once we open it up to the public, we'll get more feedback.
I hope we do.
So, but that's,
I hope we
And
get
of
a
course
lot
That's
of
the
it.
whole idea of having it.
Of course, it is open to the public, just as we always are, but even though we put things in the Taneytown record and things like that to try to encourage a little more interest in the planning process,
I would wish Ronnie would come ahead real quick and give us an idea what he's got on his mind too, before the,
How about Ronnie Martin?
yes.
You can't make a decision
What'd you
based
come
on
up with?
what you
That's-
might want. That's not right
That's
either.
correct, the dentist office is.
No, it would give you an idea of what might be coming down the line.
Versus
but,
actually
right now, you don't
what
know
that street
nothing.
would have continued.
and well,
Then it's still
that
not
little
on
part.
him if he tells us that.
It's right here.
Possibly.
Typically would have gone into that street, instead it just went back into that property there.
Like I said,
How can a city street tie into
things
a
are,
private street?
Well, he told us too.
We could have a master, when we do that master.
tobacco shop.
Yeah.
It was a-
Because that, here it shows that it continues
Yeah.
across, which would be here. Yeah,
Merwin Street, what is it, Merwin Alley?
Merwin Drive.
Drive.
In the back, goes
Looks
all
like
the way
it connects
through.
into
Well-
the Sheets Drive.
Well, I think it was supposed to, but it doesn't.
It dead ends against Sheets.
Now it does.
Well,
no.
no, on here, it still
It-
shows that it does,
It
but
dead
it
ends
doesn't.
adjacent to Sheets. On the map, it looks as though it goes through.
Right, but it's on the map where that would theoretically connect to Trevanion is the rear entrance of the Sheets property. If you look at the map the way that we are, that's where that rear entrance is, so yeah. That property is right on the edge of downtown. So I guess the bank takes up 2 plots is what it looks like.
You good?
I'm good.
If we don't have a motion and a vote, then I guess Henry will just take back to the council that, no formal
Recommendation was made by the
recommendation
commission.
is, coming at this point, and we'll look at it again as we chug through the comprehensive plan update, unless somebody feels differently and wants to get a motion on the table.
Well, he's our liaison, he's our
I'd be
liaison
glad
for the
to.
commission,
Yeah.
so. So we all in agreement?
I don't know what the agreements is.
I think the agreement says we're
going
just gonna
ahead.
sit on it with no action
No
until
action until we,
the spirit moves us up on
Well,
this.
that's an easy thing to do, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do myself.
definitely making a change at this point isn't the right thing either.
No,
Because there's not enough in front of us.
it's easy not to do nothing.
All it takes is a motion to test the waters.
You're asking for a text, or you're asking for a,
That's what we're,
If we want to do
That's what
something
we're
else,
looking
then I
for.
need it in the form of some type of motion.
if the commission feels like something should move ahead before the comprehensive plan update, I think it would have to be a text amendment.
That's right.
Because I don't think I don't think anybody's going to be able to make a case for it being a mistake or a change of character of the area.
Well, let's look at, if we did a text amendment, what would we be changing about it? The idea of the drive-through? Would we be changing?
But it basically says the drive-throughs are not allowed.
Right. So is that the only thing he's looking to change, or is he looking for setbacks or anything else to be changed about it?
the setbacks, you probably never know till he came
Well,
in
that's
with
it,
what.
yeah.
Actually, we shouldn't, how can we sit here and second guess
When we don't have his.
when we don't have the input in front of us?
Well, and I
Right.
thought that's what we told him when he was here, was give us an idea of what you're looking for specifically so that we can work with you, but.
And
Bring in his perspective.
The last, when
Last
he was,
year.
when he was here, that was the direction, and he was supposed to follow up with us if the drive-through looked like it was
Something that would work.
gonna be serious
Yeah.
or gonna move ahead, and that didn't pan out. And then we didn't hear from him for quite a few months, and he had another prospective tenant that would not have been a change of use. It would have been, you know, a convenience type store with tobacco products being the primary thing, and then they talked about adding the fuel service to it, and that didn't materialize. And the next time I heard from him was when he wanted to put an automotive type business there, which again is not a downtown business type use, that's general business.
When you say automotive type, we're talking auto parts or auto
Sales.
sales? Okay.
Sales.
A store.
So,
No, it was sales.
It'd be a
Used
dealership.
car dealership.
Yeah.
so that's, you know, we just hear periodically when he, I guess, has a prospective
Client?
buyer or tenant, you know, that doesn't seem to quite fit into the downtown business district.
And I feel like if we do anything right now, you know, whether we recommend a text adjustment or anything like that, if this deal falls through, he's going to find another one and come back to us again.
It may not be enough.
Now can we do this? Then I mean, we're really going to cause, and then people are going to catch wind of, well, if it's that easy, then, you know, I think we need more information from him before we can say anything else about it. I'm not opposed to allowing certain things in, but I think we need to make sure we have all the details before we start changing things.
Out of all that, the biggest fear I have is the text amendment.
Right.
Allowing
Right.
drive-throughs in the downtown.
I honestly don't think the property's large enough to have a drive-through on it, but if they want to try to cram one into that little thing,
They'd have to go straight through.
right?
That's
In-
one of the main reasons.
Right.
In
the back and out
out the front, or
right.
vice versa. You know, so, all right, I think we've covered that. So did you,
So we're
you
just
have
looking
enough
to table that,
We're not going to table it.
Well,
There's no motion,
There's
so.
no motion, right,
Okay.
and we're not going to table, right.
so I'll tell council that we have no action on it at all.
Made no, right, no
Right.
action.
No recommendation.
But that doesn't mean the council can't go on with something, because
Well,
they
you're
can do
correct.
what they want.
But council.
Yeah, but council,
They'd have still have to come back to us.
yeah, we don't want to go against whatever the planning
Right.
commission says unless we have good reason to do so. If
we're not
you recommend no action, then the
Right, we're
council
not.
won't take an action on it. I can promise you that.
Right.
All right. Moving forward. It's the consolidation of plat 28 and 30 of Frederick Street, request for approval. And it's pretty much from the drawing in front, and Jim, you want to give us some background on there? And I only have one copy here, I think, to pass around.
We've talked a little bit about this in past meetings. At that point, I expected that it was going to be kind of informational only. We finally caught up with Jay on the matter, and because our code is silent on the idea of consolidation plats. But in talking it through with Jay, we determined that having a formal motion and approval in the minutes and doing it in a public session would be the best way to address consolidations like this going forward if we do have more. So there are really, the short version is he would like to build a garage on the property, and because it's a downtown business property, to put a rental garage on there, it basically is then the use of storage in the downtown business district. Unfortunately, the property across the alley previously was residential, and they built a large garage that's rented out to, you know, it may be tenants at the property, it may be other tenants, I really don't know. And Mr. Hemmler, who owns this property, wanted to do the same thing. Unfortunately, the property across the alley is all one property, so the garage is an accessory use to the dwelling. In this case, because Mr. Hemmler had previously subdivided the property, it becomes the principal use on that lot, which is not permitted in the downtown business district. So to build his garage, now he needs to put the lot back together. So now it becomes an accessory use to the dwelling on the property. So, so basically, it's just taking that line of division out and recording it so he can come in and get his zoning certificate to build a garage.
So,
Now, the city charges to subdivide. What about bringing it back together?
Charge double.
He'll have to, he'll pay the recordation fees and all of that, but there's not a consolidation fee at the city.
did you see this?
There's no charge to bring it back.
And it's unfortunate that it has to play out this way, but I can't issue a zoning certificate in good conscience otherwise, because essentially that's introducing the use of you know, storage, just like a mini storage in the downtown district. And that, I don't see that ending well for me if I permit that.
Which one's 28 and which one's 30?
Actually, it's not the lots. The house is a semi-detached, and that's the street numbers of the house.
The house.
So
Okay.
the property is known as 2830 Frederick Street.
It's a double house, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're looking at an A and a B lot, because one says Lot 1 and Lot 2, which the primary being Lot 2.
And it will just be one lot. They won't.
Okay, so I'm looking at how we want to put the motion together. We're going to, that we approve the consolidation of Lot 1 and 2 of plat 28 and 30.
That's good. So the motion.
No, well, I didn't make it.
So
Okay.
you did a
Make
the
motion
motion,
that's.
no.
I didn't make a motion, I'm just putting it together.
Yeah, that
So
does sound good.
we're looking for a motion to
Okay?
consolidate lot 1 and 2 of 2830 Frederick Street.
Okay, so would somebody like to,
I'm sustaining.
somebody else?
Is a garage in order on that back?
Yeah.
What does it have?
Well, I need to get it on the
Future?
floor, so I need a motion.
I'm
Well, you
next
sustained,
door,
so-
I've sustained.
Probably backs up to that.
I'm right beside him.
Okay.
Any complaints from the neighbors?
No. I honestly, I'm not sure if the neighbors have been made aware of
Well, the
this.
I'm curious if there
Okay,
needs to
thanks
be a
for-
public hearing to this effect, or like any other,
Not putting it back together.
I mean, that's the thing, right now, there's nothing saying yea or nay to it, so does there need to be something in the code that says, here's the process if you wish to do so?
That may be something to consider down the road. As I said, the code is silent on.
Right,
Is
exactly.
this another one of them things we need to post?
Is a
Shouldn't
garage
be.
in order on that lot?
Pardon me?
Is a garage in order on that lot?
Sure.
If you're sustaining because of your, then you can't have conversation.
I can give information.
No, you can't.
I
You
don't
can't be
keep
any
quiet.
part of this
Okay.
conversation if
I don't
you're
wanna
going to
talk for or
sustain
against him.
because of conflict of interest. Sorry, but it's weird.
Is the lot suitable for a garage?
Sorry?
Is the lot suitable for the garage?
Yes, he can
Is it
fit a
suitable for
pretty good sized garage on
Housing
there.
development?
Sorry?
Is it suitable for housing development?
There isn't really anything back there.
It could be, I mean, you could put a house on the lot. It's considered an infill lot. It may
Square
not
feet
meet
it
the
is.
requirements for, well, downtown business is
66
funky.
by
If you're not gonna put a house on the lot,
20.
if you're not doing a dwelling, there aren't specific lot size requirements and things like that. If you're putting
Well,
a
that's
dwelling
just
on it,
so,
it's supposed to meet everything for R 6000, which is kind of
Let's do
goofy,
10.
but that's the way the code is written right now. But since that's an existing lot, and you wouldn't be creating a new one, you could put a house, on there if you could meet the R6 setbacks.
And would that affect the potential building of a house on the back of the Lutheran lot, Lutheran church lot?
No, because the parsonage lot is in R 7500, and typically if there's a zoning, a split in the zoning, as far as impact on the setbacks, usually it's with the commercial piece having to have a bigger setback if it's adjacent to a residential. But for the residential, there's not like an increased setback because it's next to a business. So it wouldn't change the setbacks on the.
What's he gonna do with this building?
He wants to put up a multi-bay garage and use a couple of the bays himself and rent out a couple of the bays.
Just to house cars?
Or whatever somebody might want to
Could
store.
be anything.
Could be storage area.
Storage there, right?
That's about what we probably want.
And explain to me again, if the plots remain separate, what's the big issue there with him, or with?
Storage becomes the principal use, and that's not a permitted use in the downtown business district.
Okay.
So by combining the lots, it becomes an accessory use to the dwelling that's on the lot.
Now, if that's a separate lot now, what is the address of that lot? Is it on Memorial?
It doesn't have
or-
it doesn't have an address assigned to it because nothing's been.
It's just kind of an island. Okay.
Along with that motion, we should reference this drawing, so we keep the easement that the town has there too, because there's some easements across that property.
Well, that's
So
front Memorial Drive,
we need to reference,
well, front Memorial
Yes,
Drive?
that's what his proposal so far has been, yes. So there's adequate room for him to meet the setbacks for an accessory building, which is 5 feet from a property line or 10 feet from any street or roadway. It's actually a fairly large piece of property, running the depth from Frederick Street all the way back to Church Street.
well, it looks like the lot 1 is 120 feet by 66 feet wide,
Actually, I think it might be
72 in the back, yeah, so
Yeah,
get,
tractor's
so,
well shaped.
yeah.
And did you discuss with him about the easement that's existing there?
Yes, he would love to get rid of it,
Well, I'm
but,
sure he would.
but we did not agree on that.
So I'm still looking for some type of motion.
Now, he still has to come, even once let's say we say, okay, let's combine them, he still has to bring you drawings for this shed, so you can ensure that it's not going to infringe on the easement or
Right,
anything.
right, he still needs to get a zoning certificate.
Right, I don't want this to be a carte blanche of, yeah.
It won't come back to us.
Right, it won't come
Right,
before
it'll go to
again.
you for your discretion, I understand.
Right, and I'm essentially gonna look to make sure that it, doesn't encroach on the easement and that it meets the 10 feet from the alleys and, no more than the, correct percentage of the rear yard, which it's a pretty big rear yard, so I can't imagine that's even gonna be a concern.
Do it. So we can move forward here.
All right, I make a motion that we allow the consolidation of the properties at 2830 Frederick Street,
I'll second it.
As submitted.
as submitted, yes.
And Jim, you seconded it? Further discussion? Scott, any comments? No. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstain. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Jim, I'll give you a call when the Mylar gets here.
Okay. Ordinance and agreements, none. Planning report, Jim?
Well, we pretty much touched on everything that was on my written report this month, so if we want to maybe
Hey, man,
get
I
right
think
into
I
it.
had your, something here marked up pretty good.
So I do hope we'll have some time to talk about some comprehensive plan stuff a little later.
Do you want to mention anything about Tevis? If not, I mean, there's no action, no.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's, we'll hold off until
okay.
we have a chance to meet with the parties involved and see if something's really going to change or not.
Okay. Projects in, the active.
Okay. We actually do have a couple updates. Let's see. Highs has, I don't think they had done this as of our last meeting, but they've moved ahead with the Public Works Agreement, and the Mylars are signed and sent into the county, so they have met all their city requirements to finish up by doing the stormwater and connecting the Road A to the shopping center. Next month, expect to see Meadowbrook back on the active subdivision list. Dick Hall, the principal in the project, has proposed a revised phasing plan. He would like to move ahead with what is on there as currently on there as section 4. He would like to break it down into 4A and 4B, essentially making the connection of Keenan Street as part of 4A, and that's, I believe, 27 units, and then Colbert Street, I believe, would be 4B to connect that. And then the future phases 5 and 6, I'm not sure what his specific time frame is on that. He may, basically he's trying to break it down into, to use the phrase, bite-sized pieces. Enough lots that he can turn them around in a reasonably quick time without building all the streets at one time. So the tentative plan at this point is he's going to update the construction drawings because there are some specifications that have changed since they've been sitting on the shelf, and come back to the commission with a revised phasing plan. So we hope he will be on the agenda next month for that. And there are going to be some DARA amendments as well that we can expect to see next month, because we will rule whether they are consistent with the comprehensive plan. But again, since we're only really looking at changing the phasing of the project, there shouldn't be any issues with that. So Jay's going to be working on those things between now and the July meeting, so hopefully we can comment on the DARA. Then that'll go before the mayor and council, and they'll hold their public hearing and everything on it. After the DARA is approved, then we'll be able to approve the revised phasing plan perhaps in August. And then and the public works agreement is going to have to be revised also with some language about recharge acreage for the water usage and such. So Jay's going to be really kind of wrapped up in this one. But again, there will be a revised phasing plan breaking it down into smaller pieces. So that'll be hopefully on for next month. So kind of good to see something actually moving ahead out there. And it'll be nice to get Keenan Street connected. So it won't be nice when the phones start ringing when they start cutting trees down, though. The folks along there, I'm sure, are going to be very unhappy about that. So, but
now, is the state going to give the developer reforestation requirements from that, or?
That's already been addressed as part of the plan as it was going through.
I just don't need the city to have to plant even more trees than we already are.
Right. The forest conservation stuff requires if you're taking out existing trees, it's an acre 1-to-1 ratio. For every acre of trees you take out, you put an acre someplace else. Either you buy credit in a tree bank, or you plant off-site somewhere. I mean, the preference is to replant on-site, but in a situation like this, you're converting several acres of woods to houses, so it's not going to happen on-site. So that's all part of the public works piece with the county, because we've adopted the county's forestation ordinance. So all that plays out in the public works agreements. But as I said, I'm sure there are going to be people who have become accustomed to backing up to the woods, along Bancroft Street, I guess, is one of them, and I think Bentley Street has some woods behind it as well. And the idea would be, because 4 and 4A, he would like to, I think, clear that whole area, because the mass grading for it requires taking some fill from one section to move to the other section. So it's going to be interesting when bulldozers start doing their thing out there. But that's what's been approved for years. So anyhow, so nothing new on Meads Crossing since they've amended their DAR. They were back here a few months ago for that. Still kind of just waiting to see on them. Creekside is down to one unit left to get a permit for, and supposedly all of the lots have been sold. Carol Vista Phase 4 is still chipping away. They're getting a handful of permits a month. I'm sorry I didn't have the exact number of dwellings that we permitted this month, but I would estimate it at 5 to 6 between the two projects. So,
Holly.
It was 40 units.
Transformer?
Yeah, so
Oh, is that
they've
the-
done
the-
probably a dozen
Transformer?
out of those.
Which one was that?
No, it was,
Antrim Mini Storage is starting to talk about getting a use and occupancy.
talking about that was the one with the pumping station.
Pumping
had
station,
problem.
okay.
That was fixed.
Okay.
So Antrim Mini Storage thinks they're about done. Unfortunately for them, there's still no sidewalk out front, so they're not done. And I left a voicemail for him to that effect today, so I'm sure I'll be talking to him tomorrow. And my intent is to not have the city sign a UNO until the sidewalk is in, because I'm sure they're gonna come back and say, well, can I open and then put the sidewalk in, and
Right.
so, and the last time we, helped them out, we ended up with a porta pot for 8 years. So I think lesson learned there, so.
Along those same lines, as part of Krause's renovation, are they doing sidewalk as well?
Yes. Yeah, and they will tie in at the driveway there. So, nothing new on Sheets. And Dollar General is still kind of in the same holding pattern over the stormwater management agreement. So they are still looking to get their surety released, and we're still looking to get their stormwater agreement. So that's about it on the ongoing projects, unless anybody has questions for any of them or any others.
Okay. Scott, do you want?
I have final copies of the annual report. There's one here for you and one for Henry
Okay.
to distribute if you want.
Enough for everyone?
One for you, one for him. There you go.
This is on the county's website too, right?
Yes, actually, it's not up on our website yet, I don't think, but it'll be uploaded shortly.
So I need to make some copies.
Done for another year, and I'll be back in touch with you guys in January to start it all over again.
Scott, do you have that in electronic form?
Yes.
Could you send me a copy like that?
What can your server handle? I guess I have to do a low resolution version of it.
Well, actually, I was gonna put it on what we call short scan. It's our data, it's our document management system.
Okay. I'll send it to you and see if
Yeah.
it takes it.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be a lot easier than taking one of those books apart and trying to put them back together again.
I'm down pretty small.
That's what the online retention stuff likes. Thanks.
Jim, you don't get, isn't there a copy for Jim?
We normally give a copy to the top officer and the planning commission and then the town manager, but we want to give it to. Yeah,
So usually Henry gives it to me.
And then he'll get a copy.
So it's passed down.
Jim gets all the
If
hand-me-downs.
we put it on, if we get it on short scan, everybody has it.
Good. Okay. Is that all you had, Scott? All right, then we can move right on into our discussion on the comprehensive plan update.
Is there something here, Scott, you were gonna talk about reorg?
About what?
Reorganizing.
Organization.
I can bring that up. It's not going to affect what I do for you guys in any way. We had a reorganization.
Okay.
Of
Thanks,
the
Scott.
planning department at the county level. Basically, you had a department of 50 people before. About 40 of those people are broken off into a new department, like a resource management department. So all of your environmental inspections, all of your state compliance on that, ag preservation, development review, and our zoning administrator, they're off in a different department now. And they left comp plan, the pixie dust, fairy dust, and clouds of intake fingers, just the 10 of us in a little tiny department by ourselves. So interesting to see how this works out.
All started when Phil Hager.
So Phil Baker will be the director of the clouds and pixie dust, and Tom Middlevis will be the new director of the bricks and mortar, the resource management.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that, Henry. All right, Jim, back to you.
Okay, well, I was hoping to just go over some of the recommendations from the 2010 comprehensive plan that were in chapter 3. There's a handful of recommendations in there to see if they're still valid.
Share this.
I do have,
Back in 2010, really.
Can you see that?
I need a copy of that.
Copy
I
of
don't
this
have one.
somewhere along the line.
Comp plan,
Of just the section? Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you.
comp plan is online.
It's so,
Okay, I'll pull it up then.
It's easier to mark though here in paper.
I write on my screen. Sharpie.
oh well.
so there's 11 recommendations in there. Kind of like to, unless somebody has a better idea of how to get through them, just kind of start reading through, discussing, seeing if there's still something that's valid and desirable at this point. Some of them, well, it gets into a little bit more detail, like with capital projects after the recommendations, and some of those have been completed, but I'd like to just kind of start going through the recommendations, if that's all right.
Yeah, because that's
So the first one is to recommending that we adopt a capital projects in a CIP format.
And what is a CIP format?
Capital improvement.
Capital improvement plan.
Okay, that, I understand that. But
Tell
when
me
you-
more.
When you put the word format behind it, what are you trying to say? I know what a CIP is.
And I
And
guess
isn't
we
that
could-
something that you brought up a couple months ago that we need to get more involved in, the CIP?
We will, yes.
We
But I
did.
don't know what you mean by the format. It's a document. You got, county, do you follow a special format?
But we had one, several years ago. But
Way
that
back, I thought we had to
died.
approve, yeah.
Yes.
I'm just talking about, I'm just talking about the format. I'm thinking of documents.
Yeah, the public works are a rather extensive document, or limited copies.
No, I don't really have to.
The public works.
So it's like, it's just spreadsheets and so forth, so forth, right on.
Right.
Okay. I just never picked it up as a format.
And the city hasn't,
I prefer to just change it to document.
I'm good with that, right.
I understand document better than format.
It's okay.
Or we could just say in a formal capital improvement plan. We could just,
Pick a word that you understand what it means.
okay. And just a couple quick comments on that one, and that is that the city has not adopted a new CIP for over 6 years now, because the last one that was adopted for a 5-year period that I think ended in either 2014 or 2015.
I don't remember exactly.
And essentially, there hasn't been money to throw at capital projects other than those that are more or less mandated.
Well, the thought at the time really was is that we had so many projects that were ongoing at the same time, it didn't make any sense to add more.
Was that the one Jim Schumacher brought to us and we signed off on?
Jim had that all set up for several years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be like that. There's usually a 6-year program. And you just, as you go through it, you either move some out in time or can add on more.
I hope you complete some of them.
Well,
Fingers crossed.
And Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've got some meetings coming up to start
Starting
talking about a
already.
new CIP.
right. And some of it's really easy because there's still some leftovers from the last one. The upgrades or actually maintenance to the standpipe and the water tower.
That's in here somewhere too. I have that checked somewhere.
We didn't get that one done.
Can't mandated projects be a part of your plan?
And what be?
The mandated things that's going to be coming up.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that could be a part of the
We don't
plan.
have any of those at the moment.
Well,
We're currently in progress with just one right now, and that's the DNR upgrade.
Mhm.
Thank God, I hope we don't get any more too soon.
What's your fiscal year, Henry? Is it July 1? Is that
Right.
when it starts to be?
So I think for the first recommendation, maybe just a little bit of wordsmithing on it to, I think that's still a valid recommendation, although, some of the language is, currently it's not reevaluated and adopted on an annual basis, but it
No,
would be advisable to, reevaluate it on a regular basis at least, I think, and maybe put some language into that effect.
once we get it back together again, I think it should be done on an annual basis. Because what's gonna happen is projects are gonna, if you don't fund them, they're gonna shift. And then you're gonna add new ones to it, at the end, somewhere.
So maybe the recommendation would be to, let's see,
Yeah, I did.
to revisit adoption or just to adopt a capital improvement plan since we really don't have a current plan.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because the last time what it was a 6-year program that had a beginning and an end, but it was never reviewed in between. But to me, it should be a 6-year program that 1 year drops off and the other one comes on, so you're always looking at 6 years.
You gotta reprioritize them every year.
Right,
So it should have annual.
And I
So
think
it
we-
should be annual review.
right.
And
And I thought I thought that came to us for approval.
for a couple of years, we were doing it that way, where it was kind of, the plan was updated, and, some projects would drop off or be reprioritized, to a different level. And it was kind of looked at every year, or maybe it was every couple of years. But again, that hasn't been happening for the last several years.
Why would
So
we
it probably
approve the
needs to
budget?
start back up again.
Why did the process include us to approve it?
I really don't know.
I think.
Unless that was
I
part
think-
of this, as part
I
of
think
the,
consistency with the comprehensive
That
plan would
plan.
be really where you
Yeah,
come in
okay, yeah.
to make sure that that is keeping with the vision of the plan,
okay.
and providing the means to facilitate to implement the plan. The next one talks about the comprehensive sewer study, analyzing infrastructure needs for the entire sewerage system. And we actually do have a program to televise the sewer lines, and I think we do a quarter of the city every year, so the whole city gets done
We try to go for a third.
a third. Okay, so
And the program is basically a leapfrog program. You televise this year, and what you do is, if you find something needs to be fixed now, you fix it now. But otherwise, you would then, at the end of that televising period, you'd be able to get estimates of which would need in next year's budget. So that's, like I said, it's kind of a leapfrog thing.
How much infiltration do we have now? Do we check that? Do they know how much water they treat?
Yeah.
You know how much you pump?
That's an interesting thing, because we've been focusing more on the other end of it,
Well,
How much you pump to how much you bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with these, it's been wet. It'd be interesting to see what the infiltration rate is now.
What you're saying is how many sump pumps are being pumped into the sewer?
Well, there's a lot of them. Where else do they go?
I thought we did the smoke test on that. I thought we went through and did that a couple years back.
Yeah, we did that smoke
not too
test.
long ago.
Was it really? Not too long?
Wasn't too long ago, it was a couple years.
It hasn't been too long.
Not within the past 5, not within the past 8.
I think
don't
we
remember.
It's been that long ago.
Hasn't
I
been
don't think
that
so
long.
either.
No, it hasn't been
Time
that
has a
long.
way of slipping away, but I've been here in this seat for 5 years, and hasn't been done. So
Well,
it's-
anyway,
Okay.
Maybe it was talked about.
Certainly don't seem like
I
it's
do a
been
lot of
that
that.
Henry, have them check out the infiltration rate now.
I will.
It's simple to do.
What goes in comes out.
You pump
Says
so
the man
much
drinking water.
and you
I didn't.
Like I said, I had, when we were doing streetscape project that was really on top of that.
We have done it in the past.
And the treatment plant keeps a daily log of all the
Right.
flows.
Sure. I think
So-
those records are available.
And I think streetscape really did a big chunk of our inflow infiltration
See the problem?
issues. But there's a lot of other, older lines that the televising has revealed some issues. And some of the bigger ones have been corrected, like there was I don't remember if it was a break or a leak at the end of Mill Avenue on Antrim property, right at the stream crossing, that we were getting a lot of inflow that's been replaced now.
Of course,
But
it's going to be
replaced
short
since.
now because I saved my wash water, Ren's water.
Well, George.
We use
when
that.
you think about it, the number
So we're drinking
would never
here?
really be very accurate.
Right.
And the reason I say there's a little bit of inaccuracy into it is because you're using what you've pumped against which came in, okay? Now,
Right.
what you pumped is also dependent upon any leaks in the water system. So, but that number I know has been shrinking, what we pumped. Because we've got that, again, on that similar thing, where we have the program for the sewer, we also now have a program for the water. We've got this leak detection equipment now that it's just phenomenal.
Well, that really caused you to repair your lines, the infiltration,
Oh,
in the past.
yes,
That was really the cause for repairing lines, televising, and all that business.
right. If you recall, and we did a good portion of that during streetscape where we slip lined, all of it.
Yeah, but it just wasn't on the main streets, it was all over.
I know, but one of our bigger problems is actually down in the Cloverberry area. Because that infrastructure is getting old.
All right, Jim.
So I guess on this one, I'll touch base with the Public Works Department to make sure that I have it worded correctly, but I'm thinking just to kind of update this more to reflect our ongoing televising repair program, to continue that, because I think at this point we do have a good handle and a good process in place to keep monitoring and repairing as we see the need. And at this point, since this plan was adopted, we have been able to televise throughout the whole city to identify the priority projects, some of which have already been completed.
Part of the rationale on that too is it keeps our insurance costs down. Because if you have backups and you've been televising on a regular basis over, at least every 3 years, that's why that's our number to go to shoot for. And it's, your rates are not. So people can't basically what people can do is make claims against you, not maintaining the system.
The next one talks about securing land for future public school facilities, well sites, roadway corridors, additional park and rec areas, and that we've acquired land for open space uses and things like that.
Jim,
Yes.
future public school facilities,
Why would we have that?
why is that in there?
Adequate, what's it called, the adequate?
Well, we have an adequate public facilities
Yeah.
ordinance.
Okay,
And I'm not sure if this one was in there because should the need arise for a future school, it would be ideal to put it in a priority funding area as opposed to out in the midst of nowhere, but I know the districting and populations have a lot to do with that, but
we don't play any part in securing land.
No, but we do, if our school doesn't meet the adequate public,
Doesn't that go to the county?
it
They-
does, but
they
then it does
decide.
on us,
But still holds a
on designated areas.
I understand that. That's part of the of new development.
Right.
But securing land for public school facilities doesn't sound
I think
right.
the statement's more of like a catch-all kind of a statement, and this
Okay.
can be done through the development,
Yeah.
process where you have a large landholder coming in wanting to develop their property, perhaps they set aside open space as part of the
Yeah,
development.
well, okay.
Something along
You
those
can make
lines.
him give land for that.
Yeah, and now school enrollment is trending downward. It's been going down. I think 2006 might have been the peak of school enrollment, and there's no indication in the next 10 years that we're going to get any more students in the system. It's going to continue to go down. So theoretically, we don't need to build anything anytime soon. But that's not to say that the current trend will hold. You know, one of these days, you might start building again, whatever that is. But,
Yeah.
Do you recall how?
Francis Scott Key's the only one that's even close to being up to the state limit
Capacity? Or?
capacity, yeah. Because the elementary school and the middle school is way down.
Just shifting lines to
Yeah.
accommodate,
Right.
Right.
because they built so many new.
Wasn't Runnymede at capacity not long ago, or is that dropped off significantly?
there are very few schools that are at or near capacity
Okay.
throughout the county.
As Scott said, there, at least all the Taneytown area schools have been trending down for several years. And projected the same way for, at least to the end of the projections the last time that I looked. But the last time I looked was when we were running Meads Crossing through the APFO process, and that's been a couple years now. So I'm not sure if we want to keep that as kind of the catch-all, or if we, I suppose as we get a little
I think
farther
it should
along.
stay there. I don't think we should change that.
I say having it there doesn't obligate us to
Right.
do anything.
Right.
Right.
So I see no problem with keeping it there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see, the next one is implement a groundwater development program and comprehensive water study, and to provide a detailed and comprehensive plan to develop groundwater supplies and expand and maintain the community water system supply system that will adequately and effectively serve the current and planned development in the community planning area. Wow. So,
Aren't you on that water study?
Forever.
we're focused.
Looks good.
The WRCC is focused more on the waste stormwater system at this point in time. That's kind of the hot button right now. But I think we actually have been working kind of in conjunction with the DARAs and the public works agreements for the larger subdivisions that have been kind of waiting in the wings, and with Meads Crossing to develop a strategy with regard to, you know, groundwater sources and recharge acreage and things like that. That might be something, I don't know if we should ask Jay or maybe Brian to talk about that at a future meeting. I think they could do it more eloquently than
Well,
I.
yeah, I guess the only thing we've got on that, just to speak about, is we have a finite capacity of storage. And, you know, at some point in time, that's gonna be strained. And where that gets strained, I don't know. But, I know that in the last comprehensive, or the last civil product, there was acquisition for, land for an additional structure for water. So, it's gonna remain there. I'm not gonna take that out, but when that number, when we need it, I don't know. But we better do it before we really need it.
I'll try to get some text from Jay or Brian Lubenow to plug in here, just to kind of update this a little bit as to what has been done.
What would that be?
As far as the, we've gone through and done the projections for the various subdivisions that are coming in the foreseeable
Yeah.
future.
But they
which-
wouldn't be there if we didn't have the water at all.
Right. So,
And, well, I guess, kind of speaking on this a little bit, you know, and we have sort of changed a bit of our policy with regard to water itself. What was tried out was that if you're gonna build it, you had to bring the water with you. Well, that failed miserably up in Weeds Crossing. And how it failed was, you know, they, well, actually, they took total control. And we had very little input to MDE, and their well was, it's still there, we own it now, but it was, it only met the needs of that community. And there were some thoughts that, well, what we do is make them drill deeper. Then I realized, well, you can't require somebody to do that, because drilling wells is a little bit of a hit and miss thing, because if you drill further down, you may destroy the capacity at the top. And you'd be liable for that. So we decided that, you know, the city should be in total control of, you know, of everything as far as getting water. We were going to go out, we'll find it, we'll drill it, we'll pump it, because we've been, you know, there's a lot of things that happened in that that we were not a part of, and we were excluded from with dealing with MDE. Because, you know, one of the things that they did was it's actually works out favorable for the city, but in their usage of like the townhouses, that water has been reduced to 175. Is that right?
Might be 125, I'm not sure, but
It's even worse. It's 125 is for every unit you.
Carol Vista, right?
No, it's costing.
You would think Mead Crossing would be high in Carol Vista, because Carol Vista's 55 and older, and they aren't, so you would think you're right on 170.
Well, regardless of what that is, it turns out to be favorable actually for us as far as capacity is concerned, but it becomes a nightmare in trying to track all that stuff. Because what you don't want is for you get a UNO and the county knock off 250 gallons instead of the 125 or 175. So that becomes a bit of a accounting nightmare. But I just wanted, I didn't know if any one of you were really aware that we kind of changed our policy since our experience with Meads Crossings. You know, the theory at the time was if you want to build, you got to bring the water. And that really didn't work out. I mean,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either. I knew the problem with the pumping with the well you had out there, but I didn't know why we backed out.
No.
Because I thought we was going to force him to go deeper.
we can't.
So, and maybe that was talked about and I didn't.
And that's the problem. You can't force them to go deep. If they drilled, and, well, you could, but it would be our risk.
So you're saying now we're supposed to furnish the water? Is that it? Drill a well and furnish the water?
At whose cost?
That's the way we've all, no, it's going to be at the city's cost.
At the city's cost.
Yes, but we're going to pass that cost on to the development like we've always done.
So being, and you've already increased the impact fees to cover that already, or is that to come?
No, that's connection fees. But here's the crux of it. Right now with Meads Crossing, we owe them money. So when they have the connection fees, they're just going to be reducing that, saying, well, that takes us off what we spent. That takes us off what we spent. So there's a lot of things wrong with that, the way that went. You know, the outlying houses, if you remember when we did 13, I think it was. And we ended up with affecting wells outside the city. Well, that really wasn't done satisfactorily for the city. So if we turn that on, we don't know, we may wind up in the same position again.
sure, I was hoping to open up the Meads Crossing file to get you the gallons per townhouse, but it's not happening quickly.
I know. Well, that's okay. We know it's something less than 250.
Right. The next one, mayor and council should act to ensure that new development, traffic impacts are forecasted and planned for through the use of traffic impact study as a growth control tool. We do that when we go through the site plan or subdivision plan process for anything that's a substantial generator of traffic. And then in concert with the APFO rather. So that's I'm not sure why it says the mayor and council should act, but
I don't know.
but we pretty much do that as part of our regular process. So that is certainly, I think, a valid recommendation, although it might need to be wordsmithed a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Do we, I'm sure somewhere's tracking this in some type of audit thing. How many different projects are we connected with where we owe or going to be obligated? Like the traffic study, we're going to have to do something up here at the intersection, and now you're talking about the water. I mean, is there many?
This is the only one.
So, well, this is two. We got the traffic study, and we got to do something up here at the
I thought Lee's
square.
Crossing was supposed to take care of the square.
Well, no, a couple
Right.
months ago, somebody said that we were responsible for doing something at the square.
There will be, when Meads, Meadowbrook, and Copperfield are all built out, there will be an inadequacy at this traffic light because of left turn movements, I think in the afternoon, to be very specific. Sometime between now and when all those homes are built, we will likely lose parking spaces in the downtown area because of the creation of a turn lane. They, obviously can't make the road wider without knocking down buildings, so what's going to happen is they're going to extend, eliminate parking spaces, and then, send the right turn and straight traffic over along the right curb, and then create a left turn lane in the center. Same thing coming up from Frederick Street, most likely.
So basically, we're not talking about any large volume of dollars.
No, right, so Meads
So
is
revenue's
on,
not gonna be
basically
affected.
Meads is on the
Means
hook
on the hook
for,
that too.
Okay.
they're on the hook for restriping, essentially,
Minor,
and
okay.
maybe a new,
But I think we're losing
signal.
20-some parking places, right?
but what is in the works is a parking impact fee that will, as new homes are built, they will pay into a parking impact fee to help mitigate the loss of on-street parking by creating a fund for us to develop additional parking to replace what we lose when we get those turn lanes. So we've got to come up with, we have to be able to put a price tag on that. So we can't just randomly say every house is going to pay $1,000 towards parking. We need to have some kind of a plan that says, here's, what we anticipate property acquisition being, here's what it's going to cost us to build a surface parking lot, and, and then convert that into a per dwelling, figure. So basically we say we're adequate now, we're going to be inadequate when all these homes are built, and there's, say 500 homes, it's going to cost us, I'll just throw a number, $100,000 out to, buy a lot and pave it. It's probably going to be a lot more than that, but so it's just going to end up being a mathematical exercise once we have some kind of a plan in place for, what property we might be able to acquire and things like that. So we kind of need to get rolling on that, because we want that to be in place before any of the developments that are kind of on hold now, start pulling building permits or zoning certificates. So we kind of missed the boat on Creekside, that because it was determined that there's a nexus between, that having a, healthy downtown with adequate parking is a benefit citywide, and so everybody, all the new homes are generating additional traffic, that's causing the loss of parking, so there's a nexus between the impact fee and, what the benefit is. So we need to come up with numbers, and we really, hopefully, will have that ready to go before Meadowbrook is ready to start building homes, or Meads Crossing is ready to start building homes. And since none of them have the roads in yet, we have some time, but we kind of said the same thing a year ago or 2 years ago, and we're no farther
Well,
along.
it's gonna be a while before you have to worry about that.
Go fast.
I think we need to be worrying about it now because the rate that things move along, and, you know, it's not exactly like we've got people banging down at the doors saying, you know, here, take my house to build a parking lot. So,
And
you know.
that is.
And
really-
that's not necessarily the most desirable way to do it either, but, you know, if you look at an aerial view of the downtown area, I mean, that's where we're gonna lose parking, that's where we want to place it.
Right.
You know, there's not a whole lot of parcels that really, I'll say, would be ideal for a new surface parking lot. You know, we have, you know, 2 parking lots that are underutilized, you know, as far as for the commercial aspect. I think in the evenings they fill up pretty well, but during the day they're pretty empty. So, anyhow.
By the way, Meads Crossing townhomes are 125 is the allocation for
Put it on
those.
it, barn down.
Okay, let's see, so I guess traffic studies, is, you know, again, maybe a little wordsmithing, but
Well, let me
I
ask,
wouldn't see why we wouldn't want to continue with that.
as far as each development, right?
Right.
But I recall, not even moons ago, when I sat on the commission, that there was a overall traffic study done. Not that this what's the impact that this development's gonna cause, but what is, the overall traffic within the whole city, the whole traffic, the whole system.
We did. You had that guy, transportation come, we couldn't understand a word he was saying. Remember that?
Did that have
Scott,
anything to
you
do with the throughway?
Yeah, well,
He was,
Acronyms and legalese and all kinds of stuff.
that might have been 8-10 years ago.
well, I just don't know if, did you do that last time? The study like that? Because I think.
Yeah, it was a big study, because he was talking about different intersections. Oh, you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, the
And he
guy
told us
that
how many
was here
parking places we was gonna lose.
not too many years ago was for, no, I don't remember if he was for, because we had like 3 traffic studies in a fairly short time period. We had one for Highs, we had one for Sheets, we had one for Meads. I don't remember which one that guy was here for.
I think if we go back and take a look at
But-
the comprehensive plan that happened in the 90s,
Okay,
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that there was an
Okay.
overall traffic
That long,
study
George?
done at
Okay.
that point in
I
time.
think it was too.
Back at 490?
We've had some since
Henry
then.
said, time's flying.
didn't,
Yeah, time
we
does
didn't do a
fly.
citywide study for the 2010 plan, I know that.
No, it was before that.
Well, let's put it this way, this one, the ones you did now, and the ones before that was Donald Duck. It's how far back that. As a matter of fact, the reason
It
I
was
remember that's 'cause
96.
he wouldn't sign it.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So do we think that we do want to have a recommendation in here for, although if the idea is to complete it before we finish the plan update, then it wouldn't really need to be
Again.
recommending to do it yet again, I guess. But is that something that we should dig into a little bit to get some cost ideas for a comprehensive study, you think?
I think we should, for a traffic study? And it's for the entire city, right?
For like a citywide
Yeah, absolutely. I
study?
think if it's been more than 10 years, we're long overdue for that, I think.
Excuse me, that was pretty costly.
I see, I don't know what kind of documentation there is. Bobby Moser did most of the legwork on
Complaining
that.
about it.
You know, I really don't think Smitty wrote it. I
Oh,
think
no.
Bobby wrote it.
No, I'm talking about,
So.
like, yeah.
I'll see what's on
Bobby-
file.
Bobby Moser had, did a lot.
Now they should be able to do it a little bit more
efficient.
Efficient,
Yeah.
with, throw some strips down and bam, bam.
Yeah.
All right, well, that may not actually be language for the recommendation, but I'll dig into that and see if we can,
Who performs the traffic studies?
Hire a professional.
We put out bid and have someone, okay.
we had Traffic Concepts was on our, they were our traffic engineer for a time, but that's been several years. I don't know.
I didn't know we had
Yeah.
somebody.
Well, the,
It's gonna be another year
I
before
might
we
even
can do a
have, I
traffic
might even
study.
still have those
'cause not-
reports. Remember they gave us the time of days for,
How busy it was.
yeah.
And I mean, we definitely have those on file
Somewhere.
for those plans that I talked about. I mean, we have those studies. I don't recall one from that because I was just coming on board with the 96 plan. I was on like right before we adopted that, so I wasn't really
Because this,
there for a lot of the
the
nitty
one
gritty
that
of
I
it.
remember was very comprehensive and extensive. What it did was, it was telling, you know, on Baltimore Street, you know, they have a classification for it. We were not any good then, but it also went into depth as far as, you know, what they call background traffic. Where was this stuff coming from? And, you know, and how much of it was, what percentage of it was used.
And that, yeah, and that's part of the standard study too.
Right.
That was in those, you know, the ones we did for highs and sheets, and that's right. And really, the difference would be I guess a comprehensive study would look at, you know, more streets and, well, really specifically intersections, because that's where
back, see if I
you
can
run
find
into
that.
the adequacy issue. So, you know, a more comprehensive study, whereas when we do one for a specific development, the traffic engineers will look at the background and, you know, what other things are proposed for the area, and they will do projections on, you know, where cars are coming from, where they're going to, and, you know, how many are going here, coming from here, but then they will look at a limited set of intersections that are going to be the ones most likely to be traveled by, you know, the new
People
development
that
or the new
development.
business.
And that's
Whereas
the
I guess a
difference.
more
It's
comprehensive
not-
one, we would look at more intersections, and while it may not be
The ones that
reasonable to,
we do are, what is this development going to cause impact? Whereas the other kind is just, well, where is everything coming from? And what do you see in the future?
and while it may not be feasible to look at every intersection, it may be feasible to look at our more major intersections. Like, you know, you may not look at Roth Avenue and Chestnut Court, but you may look at Roth Avenue and Roberts Mill Road, and you may look at Roth Avenue and I don't know, Tuscarora, or no, it's the Baumgartner, I guess, would be the other fairly major
Baumgartner,
street
Roberts Mill,
that you know, that crosses. You know, so maybe you pick and choose the ones that are the connector streets or something like that. I would imagine it would be cost prohibitive to really
No,
look
I
at.
don't think you're going to look,
You know.
like a Meadowbrook, but
Right.
where you're, because since that was done, that one, we've got 2 new traffic lights in the city.
Right.
We didn't have when this
Right.
stuff was done.
It was a good
And
thing.
several stop signs along Roberts Mill Road, because that was,
Quite a few, yep.
yeah.
All right, Jim.
Okay. Establish roadway access guidelines, which can be consulted when developers request access to roadways in the city. And this was something that I know Jim Schumacher was very interested in, was basically coming up with the functional classification, or kind of a hierarchy of streets, with it being, you know, local, connector, intermediate, and, you know, more kind of planner road lingo. I've never done that. I'm not sure if that's you know, if we're doing traffic studies, traffic impact studies for our projects as they come through. Our APFO sets thresholds that then the studies determine if those thresholds are being met or not. So I'm not real sure on this,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out to what
I don't,
end.
I don't think there was interest in pursuing this at the mayor and council level, but it may be that it just never rose to the top of the list to see the light of day. So that was,
Well, again, I'm not, this,
it kind of went along with the whole package of, it was going to also look at, this type of road should have this, this is the design speed and this is the speed limit because of the volume of traffic. This is, it kind of ties in with the idea of, collectors being 25 miles an hour, residential streets being 20, alleys being 15, like that kind of thing, like a whole classification system.
We talked about that, because that was based on the width of the streets, is what the speed limit was to be posted.
Right, yeah.
I
And now
do remember
we
a
just kind of look
discussion
at
on
it
that.
as far as engineering design speeds and things like that. So, I mean, if the commission feels like that's something to pursue, we can certainly leave it in there and see if it moves ahead this time around. So, I mean, we can kind of keep it in there.
Keep it in there and
just
just-
being.
I think we ought to keep it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know we talked about that with the width of the
at some point in
speeds.
time, you're gonna need to do that kind of depth of analysis where where you replace stop signs with traffic control devices like lights. But I don't think we're there yet.
Not quite.
Obtain public land, or obtain land public access easements for implementation of the Greenways Trail System. Ongoing design work for the Greenway includes component intended to provide both recreational opportunities and environmental benefits through the inclusion of stormwater management features within the Greenway. And the Greenway is also known as the Taneytown Bypass, the completion of Antrim Boulevard. I know the county had a little issue with us using the term greenway because typically that refers to a more passive transportation, vehicular.
Yeah, I think we address it as to what it really is, myself.
Yeah, but again, that in the 2010 plan and some, well, yeah, in the 2010 plan we did have, I believe, three or four potential alignments for the bypass, and they all do reflect a very wide right-of-way that was intended to incorporate some linear stormwater management features as well as a parallel, bicycle pedestrian pathway that would be not like a sidewalk right along the road. It was going to be distanced, by some vegetative buffers and things like that. So it was intended to be not only for, getting from point A to point B, but also as a recreational facility. So I don't know that that's going to see the light of day during the life of the upcoming plan, but I don't see any harm in it being a goal.
I don't think you strike it, but
Right.
Well, we had a plan for a bypass, but that's been scrapped now and dropped by everyone.
Not us.
Well,
Maybe not us.
And
the
and
county just says
the
it's their
county's
lowest
still-
priority right
Well,
now.
it's not even on their priorities now.
Well, and it's dropped off the Baltimore Metro
Yeah, that's right.
region.
It's dropped completely.
the only
So-
place that's mentioned is here.
So this is a insurmountable hill to do this.
Today.
Yeah.
But we need to keep it there.
That's
Right.
something we
Well, it's
need,
all
we
right to
don't
keep it
need.
there.
Right, we need to keep it there.
That's okay to keep it there.
If nothing else, it'll show the county we're gonna be a thorn in them until we get our flipping
But,
bypass.
I mean, it's just like anything else. It's
We just
priorities
heard-
are set and which,
we just heard down in Westminster a couple of months ago that they will not even consider anything except little piecemeal pieces of anything. Don't even think about an entire project.
Who's that?
Right.
County?
SHA.
it's the county, yeah, that's, yep.
Yeah.
Don't
they-
even think about the whole thing. Maybe a little bit of an intersection now.
Yeah, Yeah, I recall that. The only thing they were interested in doing was doing any intersection that touched any state highway.
That would help to touch one.
Well, that's how we're getting those up, the improvements on 140 right now, between here and Westminster.
And that's just
Major
to,
highway. going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. But that same highway goes through Taneytown.
Yeah.
With the incinerator in there, we're gonna do it for.
But I'm thinking bypass right now.
All right.
well, just to elaborate real quickly on George's comments, at the joint Carroll and Municipal Planning Commission meeting that was held a couple months ago, they had representatives from various agencies come and do a little presentation. Among them was State Highway, and they talked about the funding of projects, and the question was raised of, how, should we even think about getting something on the list? And as George said, the response was, if we're talking about, a $30 million, or $100 million new road, don't bother. But if you can break that down into something that, is a smaller scale that will contribute to the longer term vision, but it's just a little piece of it, maybe we'll have money in the budget, at the
No one in this room will ever see
end
a
of the cycle.
bypass.
So, yeah.
I'm not looking that I'm gonna see it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next one is city and county should mutually determine which projects will be beneficial to both jurisdictions and enter into cost-sharing agreements to speed construction of those projects. And again, this mentions, coordinating to the, on the Taneytown Greenway, which, and really, the county has stepped up. They've bought acreage, that's been on the market, to preserve the alignment for the greenway
there went
or the
one.
bypass.
When it was the county that did Antrim Boulevard.
Telling you it's time to go home.
Right, and that was a county road, yes.
Right.
And
But
they,
now it's
and they
ours.
Now it's
purchased,
ours, right. But
right,
They
purchased,
stepped in when the state wouldn't do it back in 1983 or 4, yeah.
not the parcel immediately adjacent to where Antrim terminates now, but the next piece over, was on the market, and the county did step up and purchase that for us to help preserve that alignment. So, it's just in being leased to a farmer right now, but it's county owned for that project in the future. So I certainly think they are continuing to cooperate. And just another little update, the agreement that we have with the county with regard to cost sharing on stormwater management upgrades, I think is another good example of that collaboration, where the commissioners agreed to fund 80% of our retrofit projects that's required by our NPDES permit this go round. So I certainly think that should stay in there, and I don't really see any updates to make on that. So, and we have coordinated on water recharge as well. The county's been very generous on that, with giving us recharge from their Bark Hill property they acquired several years back. So I would hope to see that continue. All right, maybe we can get through 3 more before we call it a night.
Finish the page, just finish the page, because that'd be a good ending point.
Okay, yep. All righty. City should modify its subdivision regulations to require the developer to dictate any areas needed for greenways, bicycle, pedestrian trails as shown on the plan. I think the most important thing there would be,
I thought it was talking about bypass. This is totally different.
Right.
Same word used twice differently.
I think in this case, the important thing for us would be to come up with those trails to be on our plan. And I know I have been kind of harping to a couple folks here about it, but maybe that's something that we can talk about a little more in detail when we start looking at the maps and land use and things like that, to see if there may be some opportunities there to.
So is that something we could impose on Meads Crossing as that comes up?
So we had those in the plans.
They have some of those sort of amenities in there. I do think that when they come back to the table, assuming they do use that option of coming back to the table to reconfigure some lots and make them smaller without, changing the street infrastructure, I think there may be some opportunity to talk to them at that point about maybe modifying the trail network or something like that a little bit to provide a little better connectivity. You know, right now, for example, the existing plan, there's going to be
Taking that stuff away.
about an acre
They're
of
taking that stuff away all the time.
that.
We're gonna have a swimming pool when they very first started.
Right.
Now we're gonna have a wading pool.
Mead Crossing, I thought it was Mead Crossing.
I mean,
Oh,
that-
talking
that
about
is-
Mead Crossing?
That is the typical process, right? Is that things tend to whittle away, you know, the amenities as they
whittling
move
away.
forward.
Didn't we have a walkway around the whole perimeter of it?
Not really around the perimeter, but there are
I thought it was around the.
there are paths that go throughout that would get you, you know, pretty close to any part of the development. Something that I know I would like to see, if we have the opportunity, is maybe to provide some connection through or to the, there's gonna be a forest conservation area that's, about where O'Brien Avenue will terminate, because, that's the one that would have gone right into the ag preservation parcel that we decided to, you know, not, you know, make them build a stub that dead ends. And they were gonna preserve that. I think it's like a 2-acre wooded parcel, that'll be kind of on the edge between Meadowbrook and Meads Crossing. I think that would be a great opportunity to have their, you know, blacktop trail, you know, go through and, you know, maybe connect into, the Meadowbrook sidewalk network somehow. You know, so you could actually get from Meads Crossing, you know, without a car, you know, to get farther into town. You know, ultimately, one of the things that we've kicked around a little bit, but is, you know, having kind of a linear trail that follows Piney Creek down Bollinger Park and, you know, comes across the properties at Fringer Road there and leads into, you know, maybe it goes around and follows the stream to Pump House Road. And, you know, you
It'd be
can
nice.
have like a biking trail that would, you know, connect down Pump House Road or something. And
And
And then I can get my crosswalk.
no, there
The
you
other
go.
opportunity that's still, you know, it's ideal, is Jim Ridgely's property,
Yeah,
right against it,
Mhm.
right up to Memorial Park.
right.
Put a trail system through there, so this is
Yeah.
what we want.
And that is something, by the way, that, and I guess I feel pretty strongly about this recommendation, because we know that there is transportation money, grant money that goes unspent every year because there just aren't enough applications. But typically when we hear about it and, you know, there's a funding workshop next month, and then you go and you learn that the deadline for application is another month from that, and you need to have a, you know, at least a concept plan for a project, and we tend not to develop concept plans, you know, unless maybe a developer is willing to add something into their project. So there, at least at this point, there is money out there for these sorts of projects for pedestrian bicycle things. I mean, the state's really pushing that. And, you know, I feel pretty strongly about that. I think it would be,
If the money's there, we should take our piece of the
I-
pie and go with it.
I would love to see an opportunity for like kids to get from one park to another, from the school to a park, from the school to a library, from the library to a park, you know, without
being in traffic?
being on 140 or 194. You know, or ideally to be able to stay on a path like the path that goes through the middle school.
Right.
And, you know, that comes so close to the library. You know, it just, you know, you've got three pieces maybe between that and the library. And, you know, I realize it all costs money, but, you know, if we were to come up with a concept, we might be able to get some money to make that happen. So I just think that's something we're really lacking, is that kind of opportunity. So, all right, enough of that, so, sorry.
Well, I'm going to jump on a little bit, but what Jim's talking about is we now have Bollinger, Garrett, and there's another, there's an adjacent property. If we ever get a hold of a piece of that, it would take us, there's two pieces, right? Two more pieces, even if it's only partial pieces, it would get us right to Pump House.
That'd be a nice long,
Right along.
and, yeah, and the
Well,
county
that would
is-
come behind Maryland Avenue and hit Pump House, or
No,
where are we?
I'm sorry. I'm talking about our pump house.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think of Pump
Yeah.
House Road because
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
yeah. Because when I was young, I would go down to the old pump house and cause trouble down at the creek down there. But I can't go down there anymore. You blocked it off.
And there is, by the way, the county is in the early stages of conversations on looking at a rails to trails kind of thing with the line north of Angel Road. So, were that to come to fruition, this would be a great opportunity to have something come, connect into that would come right, right into town.
Our concept
so-
is actually go from here all the way to Close Town.
So, and the best time to do these things is before you have somebody, saying, here's what I want to do.
Right.
If we already know, oh, well, we want to have that, we need to cross your property for this bike path, it's like, we don't necessarily need to stand in the way of somebody, implementing their plan, but, hopefully we can say, well,
Now that you
just get
mentioned
us,
it.
maybe it doesn't go from here to there, but maybe it goes from here around to there, so they can still do what they want, and we still get our connection. But if we don't have some kind of a concept or some kind of an idea, we're not going to know what to try to protect or what to try to get. So, okay, let's see. The next one was review Taneytown zoning ordinance should be done, evaluate the need for changes that would make the ordinance consistent with the plan, and revise to include more flexibility and promote good design for residential, commercial, and industrial development. And it talks about clustered and mixed-use development. I know there have been some conversations about that, in particular with the idea of the urban mix district that I have brought up a few times. And we never seem to really get a foothold on, moving ahead with any of those things. But I certainly think that's a good recommendation. Whether it sees the light of day or not, I don't know. But I would certainly like to keep something like that in there, because I do think that the codes need to be evaluated periodically, and
Because the word clustering comes up every time we get a developer in here almost.
yeah, and and just we adopted Community Village, and when Meads Crossing came in, planning to utilize that the way that it was initially intended, with the alleys and the rear loaded garages and all that stuff, I think we were thrilled. And now that they're trying to build it, they're finding that the development community, the builders, don't believe that product will sell here, that product would sell closer to $495, but it's more expensive to build that than the conventional R10 subdivision we've been getting for the last 20 years. So, I think I think Meads, assuming it builds per the plans, will be a very nice project, but they're finding that it's a difficult sell for, the northwest corner of Carroll County. That's the market, the folks who are looking for that, they're not looking here, they're looking, in Montgomery County. The folks that are looking out here want their little 10,000 square foot of, green and, drive till you qualify, and that's what people are looking for in Taneytown, apparently. So it's interesting that,
Yeah.
So again, I think that was a very, good look at things, to make have the density bonus and all that sort of thing, but we may find that it's not marketable for Taneytown, so we might need to come back and look at that again. But again, that's an option for people. That's not saying you have to do it that way.
We have to be aware of these changes that are being presented now and thought about and proposed. We're going to wind up with the same thing that happened in Cloverberry. Cloverberry started with a pretty picture also,
Yep,
and it wound up with what we have today.
yep.
You don't have to go back that far.
I said that in the meeting not too
And-
long ago, that they were
and the
doing.
very
that's
thing is
exactly what's
starting-
happening to us.
Very thing is starting to take place right now out there. All kinds of changes are thinking about all kinds of changes, and you're saying that now this type of thing won't sell up here in Taneytown. That same thing happened out at Cloverberry. We had pretty pictures to start with, but it wound up with something different. Just beware.
Well said. The last one was adopt procedures to evaluate the adequacy of public facilities in its review and approval of site plans and subdivisions. So,
That has to stay there regardless. I mean,
yeah,
there isn't anything here that would change or,
Well, and the mayor's talking about making a committee for adequate public facilities right now, so.
why would we need a committee?
He wanted to bring a group of people together to look into public facilities.
Got police, fire, school.
and it may
got
be,
all that stuff.
there's one component of the APFO that has a pretty hefty price tag as far as, the operating budget goes, and that's the police adequacy, that we have a very, compared to other jurisdictions, a very strong ratio of officers per population, and that's something that I know the mayor has commented about previously, that ratio may be too high. So that may be part of his intent to review that
Right now, it's
component.
1 per 500.
Okay, 2 per 1,000. As long as we got crime, we need
I
them.
was gonna say, as long
I
as we
thank
got
you,
that
yes.
Why would we want to go any less? I mean,
Yeah,
I have, a number of years ago, this came up, and I really looked into it very hard. And there is an algorithm that has many components to it. And I would talk math now. As your derivative goes to 0, it doesn't count anymore, okay, in the equation. And so what you're left with is really just two things. You're left with population and calls for service. That's the two driving things.
basically,
Because
yeah.
if you count crime, we don't really have a lot of major crime.
right.
Once a year, we have a major crime, that's really it.
Yeah,
But on that same thing, I'd like to see the one number that I have been striving to get, and I haven't found it yet, is what's the manpower allocation for linear mile or for maintaining infrastructure on streets and roads? I just haven't been able to get it, because I'm used to using those kinds of things. I've built maintenance centers based on those kinds of numbers. And that all exists. It's just really hard to find anything for, maintenance of roads. Because you can't go to state highway. I thought about that, because they don't really deal with the same kinds of infrastructure. They don't have water, they don't have sewer, they don't have, they have stormwater.
I think that needs to stay.
Well, that's probably a good stopping point.
Pardon me?
Is that a good stopping point?
That's a good start.
Through the
That ends this page,
recommendations?
and we can start, we're in July up here at the next one.
Maybe we'll pick up with, if things slow down a little bit in my world between now and the next time I send packets out, I'll try to have some, maybe some draft text on, some tweaks for these recommendations, and maybe even if I do get a chance, I'll try to, I know some of these capital projects, facilities, and other initiatives, off the top of my head, I can think of a handful that have been completed or aren't valid anymore, so I'll try to come up with some draft language or updates on this when I give the packets out next month. So,
every little bit we do is to start.
Okay.
All right. Henry, you have anything else?
No,
Jim? Jim? You have anything? Holly?
Yes.
All right, so our next meeting will be July 27th. Entertain a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.